So I shoot a single pin.
Okay.
And I set it at 50. It's always at 50 unless I have time and need to move it. But for the hunt, I just have it at 50. And there's a trick. It's called different things, but I always call it the 50-foot low trick.
When you say you're elk hunting or whitetail hunting and deer or elk comes through at a point where you don't have a chance to range it, which happens pretty dang often, at least in my experience, and maybe you have a tree that's marked, this is 45, this is 30, there's somewhere in between it. When you everyone talks about gap shooting, okay? Are you using, say, that pin above and putting it up somewhere? Are you looking between the pins? How are you doing that gap shooting? I was just thinking about this the other day when I was personally shooting in the yard and trying to figure it out. I think I was doing it different every time, and I was like, I need to get a system down.
So I shoot a single pin.
Okay.
And I set it at 50. It's always at 50 unless I have time and need to move it. But for the hunt, I just have it at 50. And there's a trick. It's called different things, but I always call it the 50-foot low trick. So try this at some point.
Yeah.
Next time you're out in your yard, anywhere between pretty much about 18 to 20 yards and around 39 to 41 yards. It just depends on your peep height and your setup, but it's generally within that range. If you take your 50-yard pin and you aim a foot low, you will hit your target every time from the 18 to 40, 20 to 40 yards.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. You have to try it to believe it. But that's how I bow hunt. So I'll have it set at 50. And if I don't have time to range it, I can know, is this dude between 20 and 40? Absolutely. And I just aim a foot low. So on an elk, I'm right below the heart. And then whatever margin of error I need, it's definitely between heart and lungs. It's a dead elk. And with a deer, I'm just a little bit down below the brisket, maybe almost halfway to the knee, and then go up a foot from that, and you're right in the boiler room. And so you don't have to worry about ranging. So when people hear I hunt with a single pin, they're like, "What do you do? Like, how do you do that?" I'm like, and so I tell them that story, and I get this reaction.
That's mind blowing.
And there's physically I've got one in my office already built up. There's a tape system that you can create to take all those measurements, and it'll show you what is your acceptable margin of error off of that foot. Is it 1.5 inches? Is it 2 inches? And so the wider your margin for error, the more you can get away with. But there's a bracket that you can put together on a target to do all that testing to figure out what your sweet spots are.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
And that's Evan's way of overdoing it.
Yes.
I just go out, dude. I'm like, put it at 50. I go to the 3 park and I just start shooting stuff at 20, 25, 30, 37, whatever. And I'm like, yep, I'm good. I'm killing anything at a foot low, 50-foot low. And, a lot of times you will have a chance to range, and you can range it and you can dial it to whatever.
Yeah, because anything over that, if you don't really have a chance to range, you probably don't have business shooting it.
Anything over that, you should have time to range it and take your time. And, if you're in the woods and you're not going to use a 50 ever.
Does that work for 40 in any sort of, or like any other, so even like if you're whitetail hunting and your shots are probably going to be 30 and under, you're still keeping it at 50?
If it's really thick and like I know he's just going to be, it's going to be a 20 or 30 yard shot, then there's not really any reason to do that. I'll just put it at 25 and just whatever. But yeah, just because that's what I practice and it's what I'm used to, it's just safe to leave it at 50 so that I always know. It's kind of like going back to your 20. You just always know it's at 20, but I always know it's at 50. And then if I don't have time to adjust it, it's just a foot low. Mm-hmm. Again, this isn't something you do to go win an ASA tournament,
no,
right?
Yeah. This is a hunter. This is a hunting
mentality. This is trying to hit the
kill zone.
The kill zone. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's awesome. Like I love I wasn't expecting to get that nugget of information out of you, but I am 100% trying that. Yeah. And when I have arrows that I can't find in the yard, I'm calling you. If you're like, yeah, I got him, Evan. I'm definitely gonna try that because that's especially when I look at like the places where you have those opportunities that'll be in there. A lot of my whitetail setups are that 30 and under. I leave mine at 25, and that's just I know. And so the one thing that I had been doing, it helped a lot, but I'm still not totally there yet. But I'll take a target and say if I'm leaving it at 25. When I was elk hunting last year, I left it at my top at 30, and that gave me a little bit. But I knew I'd aim at the dot, okay, at 30 yards, shoot, make sure I was on, okay, it's in the center. Then I'd go closer. I'd go to like 18, shoot, still aim for that same dot, and I'd see where it hits. And then move back and do that anywhere from, 50 to 18 yards essentially. And I'd take where all it's at. I'd take a picture with my iPhone, and you have a little drawing tool and you can edit. And I'd circle them, and I'd write what yardage and where that hit, so I could have an idea on where my arrow is hitting to help me kind of gauge, what I would need to aim for based on that. And that did help me a lot, but I still, the whole idea of figuring out, again, do I aim just high with that top pin, or do I look through it in that center part? And that's something I've run into. But what about you, Evan? What's your process?
So the last couple of years, I've run a 3-pin with a bonus. So I've run 30, 40, 50. If I need to gap shoot, I am splitting pins and looking between the pins.
Okay.
Because I physically want to put my eyes on the spot that I want to shoot. So, and if you try that sometime, like let's say you're at 35 yards, so you're gapping 30 and 40. If you just kind of let your pins float, but you keep your eyes fixed on what you want to hit, you will naturally and subconsciously break that shot when it's in the middle. Same thing if you step up to 34 or step back to 37. Like you let your brain work the way it wants to. And if you can physically see your target, then to me, that's better than trying to, I want to hold this pin low, because your eyes are telling you want to hit here, but you're forcing your pin to sit here. So you're going to be bobbing quite a bit, and you're going to break either on the way up or on the way down. So you're either going to hit high and potentially wound an animal, or you're going to go low. So figure out what works for you with your system, your mental game. Mine is always, I want to see my spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like I'm similar on that aspect, as far as like when I've tried it's a mind game of like holding that pin down. That's why I'm interested to see how aiming below the deer is going to feel.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Again, if it's one of those where you want to put pin on target, then if you're using that, I call it the trick pin system. Jeremy calls it 50 a foot low. Okay, same exact thing. If you can physically go, okay, a foot low, that's going to be that blade of grass or that weed that's behind him and underneath, then you physically have a spot to put it on. The first high country velvet buck I shot, I guessed him. I thought he was, I don't even remember what I thought it was. I thought it was like 65 yards, and shot way off. And I was like, oh, I need that pin to be way up here. And I found a branch. I was like, I should put that 65 pin up there. I held on a spot on the tree and just let the arrow dump in, because I physically have a reference that my mind can focus on. Doesn't matter what else is going on, either like Jeremy's coming up into a target. On that one, I was dropping down into a target.
Okay.
Same thing if you're shooting an attack. If there's a log or there's a branch, there's an obstacle between you and that target, and mentally your mind is going to be, don't hit it, don't hit it, don't hit it. Well, add 2 or 3 yards to your sight and aim for that spot, because if you're adding yardage, you're going to be above it. Mm-hmm. But your mind wants to focus on it anyway, so dial down into it, aim for it, and let the arrow go over that spot because you've added yardage.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good trick, because I know even like, especially at longer distances when you have it, and when I did the podcast with Lee Lakoski, he talked about this a lot with like hunting mule deer at longer distances. He's like, a lot of times you can't see the vitals, but you got to aim at that hill that's in front of you. He's like, it messes you up. Yeah. He's like, when you know your bow and that it's going to arc over and go down in there, which totally makes sense. I've been at tacks where it's like, especially you're the big group of guys and you're like, I don't want to screw up, in front of running. Actually, I was shooting with Dudley before, and I was like, first time shooting with him, I'm like, oh, this is great, and I'm gonna look like an idiot. And we come up and he looks and he's like looking at my setup and everything, and he's like, all right, he's like, you're good. I shoot and I smash this branch. I mean, just smash it. And he's like, I knew that was going to happen. He's like, you're shooting those heavier arrows. He starts giving me this whole thing. I was like, really? He did help me sit there with a pocket knife and cut my arrow back out, which I appreciated. But I was like, thanks for giving me more anxiety than I need.
If you have an obstacle above, just drop down and shoot from your knees. Give yourself the extra 2 feet you're going to drop.
Yeah.
So there's my tack advice for you.
Yeah. That's really, really good advice there. Okay. So question still on the same track with aiming, when you have, say if you're lucky enough or maybe unlucky, depending on if you know how to shoot this, but an animal at like 5 yards gets like super close, and I've always learned that your 60-yard pin will hit directly on. What about with your 50 strategy? How does that happen? How does that work?
Yeah, it's going to be, I would just hold a tiny bit high to get to my 60.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. What do you do in that scenario?
I rely on my bonus pin. So the way my sight was set up last year is I had 3 pins, so I did 30, 40, 50, and then I had the bonus pin in that UltraView slider. Mm-hmm. So with my speed, that put that bonus pin at 72 yards, which I'm spot on at 4.
Okay.
So
the thing I've run into with when you have a pin that's at the bottom, so I've shot a 3-pin vertical for quite a while now, and before that I was using the Spot Hog that was the 2-pin vertical. I like vertical pins, but I struggle with that bottom pin of like I'll shoot high more often than not, even when I know it's on and that's the way it's supposed to be. Something about in my mind aiming with that bottom one just throws me off.
Could be too the angle of your scope and how you're seeing it.
Yeah,
so
that could definitely, because it'd be like sometimes I'll be on perfect and then I'll have one that I shoot over the back and I'm like, what the heck? Mm-hmm. How did that work? So in hunting scenarios, I do everything in my power to not use that, which is not I'm not using the full capabilities of the sight. Hey guys, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this conversation, share it with your buddies. Leave us a rating, a review, and subscribe. If you want to check out more content like this, there's plenty in the links below. We truly appreciate having you guys along with us.